Well, that was a fun one. Spencer German, Spencer Davies here with you. Obviously, I'm back on the home front. Spencer's at the arena as we recap everything that transpired between the Cavaliers and the Timberwolves over at Rocket Arena today. 146-134. Cavaliers are victorious. Bounce back effort after losing to Minnesota earlier this week, and we got plenty to talk about. Make sure you head on over to CAVSRoundtable.com. Make sure you join the community over there. We appreciate your guys' support and joining in the conversation, as we also appreciate you subscribing to our YouTube channel and joining us here for this conversation as we break it all down for you here post-game. Spence, we might feel differently about this, but to me, as I was watching this game unfold, it just felt like, and I know there's going to be some other games that have sort of felt like this recently, but to me, this felt like the most complete game this Cavaliers team has played. It was the way that they were getting contributions from everybody. It was, that everyone's kind of playing into their roles, how efficient Sam Merrill was, obviously. Donovan was Donovan, but Darius was picking up some slack. Evan, I thought, looked maybe the best he has all season. They get out rebounded, and that was a little closer until the very end of the game. I think the last 5 minutes, the Wolves kind of pulled away there to get to 40. But, I just felt like everything, this felt like the old Cavs again. And I think that's a very, very important thing, and maybe a very important sort of point in the season for them to maybe get their swagger back here.
Well, they didn't have to get bailed out by Donovan Mitchell. That's, what I think the number one takeaway is for me here. Donovan started the third quarter out great. He had a really good third quarter. But to me, Evan Mobley taking it home, Darius Garland, Jalen Tyson looking like $1 million off the bench. Those were the things that stood out to me. But to answer your question, no, I don't think that was their most complete game. I know you look at 134 and think that's a poor defensive performance. I would disagree. It felt like more like a 120-point game. We can get into detail on that later. But I think their best game of the season was on the road at San Antonio. That was both ends for me, what stood out. And Evan going straight at Victor Wembanyama and Jared Allen looking the way he did. I think that was big time. Kenny said that he thought that the Phoenix game probably was the best of the season, which was the game after that San Antonio trip to the Alamo and coming back on New Year's Eve and taking on a Suns team that's been playing really good basketball and beating them, honestly, pretty handily there towards the end. So they've had a couple of them. They're starting to churn a little bit more. Jury's still out on whether or not they're going to be able to do it consistently. I'm sure that we'll get into that conversation as well. But today, what stood out to me in that fourth quarter especially is Jalen Tyson being himself, normal again. Kenny was like, it's almost been like a 4-game lull for him, which also kind of coincides with him being sick. Like, if you want to just take in the human portion of this, he was sick for a week. So physically, body language looked like he was really feeling it out there today. Sam Merrill, I thought, was really good. Like you said, not only just efficient, 5 of 6 from 3, but defensively, man, just trying to set that tone on the physicality. Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle, they set some hard screens, man, and they are some big dudes. So when you're switched out on to guys like that, it's tough. And, Bones Highland had a good game, but he tried Sam Merrill a number of times, didn't work. You had a couple of different possessions where Anthony Edwards thought he had, barbecue chicken, but Sam was staying in front. And this is what Sam brings to the table. It's just that toughness and the fact that he's there to stop some drives and stop some ball movements. So did a really good job there. What stood out to me the most, I think, especially in the second half, and really it started in the second quarter, was Darius Garland's off-ball movement.
Yeah.
I know he had the assists tonight, but man, as of late, he's just been kind of getting off the ball a lot. And the bigs are finding him on backdoor cuts. And he's kind of bringing a different sense of random kind of stuff on the offensive end where teams have to react because they've got to worry about Donovan Mitchell, who's up there on the perimeter. But if DG is going to be the engine, if he's the catalyst, as Sam Merrill calls him, then Cavs are just in a really good way because he's just orchestrating things. Joe Gabriel of CAVS.com brought this up in the press conference. DG's got 4 turnovers in the last 4 games. That is huge when your point guard can take care of the ball like that, especially when the Cavs have had their turnover troubles as of late. For him to have 0 tonight and to orchestrate that offense is big time. So those are the things that really stood out to me. If we talk about one play, Jared Allen blocking Julius Randle and then dunking on him in literally the same 2 possessions was one of the craziest moments I've seen. Evan Mobley got Rudy Gobert on a Rondo play where he faked the scoop right and ended up dunking left, and that started Evan's kind of second half that he really got going. So individual plays, that was definitely what stood out. Defensively, I'm going to say it again. I thought they were on their P's and Q's. I thought that was so much better. The score was the same. The results were the same, okay? Third quarter on Thursday against the Wolves was one of the most pathetic things that I've seen them do this year. They were just in there, boxed into inside the arc, in the key, and just looking out at guys like Naz Reid burn them from deep. And you had DiVincenzo doing the same thing. McDaniels was open in the corner every single time. Tonight, they were contesting him, and it didn't damn matter. It was insane. DiVincenzo was knocking them down. You had guys just making these really tough shots. Bones Highland, which good for him, like getting the playing time he did. He had a good game today. His first shot was literally a shot clock violation, almost. He turned around and banked it from the Cavs bench side. And I was like, okay, what are they going to do there? And then you know what happens in the second half? Nae'Qwan Tomlin's in a jump ball battle with one of the Wolves. I can't remember who it was. And he wins the jump ball, but it tips into their basket. It's things like that. The Cavs started tonight by forcing a 24-second clock violation. Their defense was better than what it says on the box score.
Well, and that's why, this is why I felt like it was their most complete game. And listen, if you want to cite the Spurs game, that's totally fine. We talked about that game too that week of how impressive a performance that was and how meaningful it felt at the time. But I agree with you. Like, all the things you cite are why I feel that way. Their defense, the defensive effort was there, especially after playing them earlier in this week and having some of those issues. They cleaned a lot of that up. They kind of knew what the assignment was. Even something as simple spin as first half versus second half, right? Like, each quarter was better. They had 29 points in the first quarter, 34 in the second quarter, and then 36 in the third quarter, and then 47 in the fourth quarter. We know how problematic those third quarters have been. And like you said, like, it felt like they found something at the end of the first half, and then they found a way to carry that over to the second half and kind of pick up where they left off in the third quarter. That's the type of thing that's been missing from this team. And so I love the defensive effort, the fact that we've talked so much about effort this season, and that felt like it was there today, and how they continued to go about their business in that second half and just at will be able to do what they wanted. And we, again, another thing that people cite with this team, the physicality part of it. I thought today they played like a physical team. They at least matched the Timberwolves physicality. And those are the types of things that start to make us feel confident in this team if they can do it consistently. That is the big question. I want to get back to that here in a little bit. But I did also want to ask, before we get into some individuals, what did you think of the starting lineup today from Kenny Atkinson, where he inserts Sam Merrill? And I know some of that was injury related. There was no Dean Wade today, we know. But what did you think of him starting that group? Because I thought it was a pretty efficient group overall. They played really well with each other, and he was getting some production out of it, obviously. I think all those guys except Mobley were like a plus in the plus-minus, and I think Mobley was like at 0. I don't think he was a minus. So what did you think overall of him inserting Sam Merrill and the performance that he got from that group today?
Probably smart, because you saw what happened Thursday, and I've been banging the drum for CP to play more, but just not the matchup to do it, because there's too many big guys in the Wolves lineup, too many tall guys, too many, tall, long guys, so just probably not the best matchup for him. Sam, here's the thing. I would like Sam to start more often, but the thing is, you need his abilities off the bench. You need it. You need that scoring punch. You need that off-ball movement. Evan Mobley called it today, it's randomness. Darius Garland called it chaos when Sam's in there. And it's almost replicable to what, Max Strus brings to the table. And it's that just off-ball, snaky, team's got to account for what he's doing. You look at what he's done this season when he's healthy, Sam, And it's even more than just the shooting. It's even more than just even the off-ball movement. He's getting downhill now a little bit. He's kind of flirting in between that in-between area and, getting some floaters off. He's playmaking a little bit in the pocket. He's got a lot more ability than people, give him credit for. So he's definitely a huge part of the rotation. I just don't like leaving those holes off the bench, so to speak. So
Yeah.
this is by necessity right now because Dean Wade is obviously dealing with his bruised left knee. So you have to find somebody to put in that starting lineup. The other option would have been Jalen Tyson, but Kenny likes Jalen coming off the bench right now. And clearly the game that he had tonight, as I said, he's been dealing with a little bit of an illness as of late, but body language and obviously the production that he got going tonight was fantastic. You look at the job really that, JT, Craig Porter Jr., and Sam Merrill, they all did defensively against guys that are bigger than them and stronger than them probably. And they had the will. They had the will defensively tonight. And I think that's what really stood out. But Sam, yeah, if you'll see it in our YouTube videos, they are very, very high on what Sam brings to this team and brings to the table. And it's reflective in the record for the team. I don't know what it is now. I think they have 15 wins or something when he plays. So it's an indicator. It's a real indicator.
Yeah, he's been awesome. And he honestly, like, of all the things that have gone wrong for this Cavs team this year, Sam Merrill has gone very, very right. Like there's so much debate over, do you pay Ty Jerome? Do you pay Sam Merrill? You can knock the Cavs for certain decisions they made and question certain things. I get it. They made the right call on this one because Sam has been brilliant. And I like the stat you throw it at the end there, like whether it's 15 wins or whatever the semantics are of that. They win when he's out there, and that's been huge. He's been such a spark for them, and I do agree with you too on like his value off the bench is there. Tonight though, or today, with him in that starting lineup, you saw the difference. You felt the difference, and so it'd be nice if you could keep him in the starting lineup, but you got to know you have other guys behind who can sort of fill in those cracks and provide that scoring for you. Maybe when Max Strus is back, that allows you to put Sam in the starting lineup. We'll see, but still some time away from that. Let's talk about some individual performances, and I want to start with Evan. I thought Evan today, Spence, was as good as we've seen him during his time in Cleveland. The guy that we were all anticipating was going to take another step. Like, I think you saw that version of Evan today. Maybe you want a few more boards out of a game like today, but that might be the one thing. But overall, like offensively, he had everything working. His mid-range was working. He was getting to the basket. Who knew he had that fake scoop layup in his arsenal? He found a way to do it today. He didn't knock down any threes, but he didn't need them. 24 points, that supporting role alongside Donovan Mitchell. He was 100% there. Like, this was the Evan that if you can get this on a consistent basis, and that word keeps coming up, consistency, but this is the Evan if you can get that on a consistent basis. Like, we see the light at the end of the tunnel. We see that they can win a lot of games with him playing like this. He just has to be able to play like this, and that's the big question. But I thought he was brilliant today.
He was good. He was really good. And you look at the way that he responded in the second half, too. I mean, he only had 8 points and 3 boards or 3 assists at half. I think he had a steal in there or something like that. But just the amount that he got in the second half and the amount of field goals. And when it came in the fourth quarter. That's what I'm looking at. Yeah. I'm not looking at no stat sheet or box scores when it comes to Evan Mobley. I'm looking for instinctual stuff. I'm looking for, when did this stuff happen? How did he respond to this moment? People were saying he was getting eaten alive by Rudy Gobert in the first half. So what happens in the second half? What happens in the fourth quarter when the game is starting to really get away and the Cavs are creating separation? It's because Evan Mobley's going right at the guy, right at him. And I know that Rudy had 4 fouls. He had 4 fouls probably midway through the third quarter, something like that. But still, the fact that he put it on the floor, made a contested jump hook. You look at the play where you said it. He had the Rondo play in the third where he faked up with the right and then dunked with the left. He had a really nice alley-oop from, I think it was Donovan Mitchell, threw it way up there, and Evan went to go reach it with his go-go gadget arms. And you have the other play that really stood out to me, too, was when he attacked from the perimeter. I think the shot clock was getting below 10, and he went right to the nail. For those that are not knowing where the nail is, it's the free throw line area where there's the two sides of it. And he's fading away. But Rudy Gobert's contesting, and he knocks that thing down right after he made the contested jump hook, which was, before that, and then making himself available in the pocket for DG. So it's that array. It's that multiple level skill set that Evan has. How do they get that out of him more consistently? It's on the guards to get him the ball, yes, but he needs to call for it more. He needs to set a little bit better screens more often. He needs to, it's definitely on him too. Kenny likes to put a lot of it on his shoulders, but it's a lot on Evan too. And I think Evan knows that. You've got to be able to do it more and more and more. And I think Donovan's got to love to see that, because he didn't take many shots at all in the fourth quarter. He did the brunt of the work in the third. He did the brunt of the work in the first quarter, coming out, shooting all those shots. But Evan was the one that took him home tonight. Evan and Jalen Tyson took him home tonight.
That has to feel encouraging for everybody, because it's the stuff like I love that you highlighted his performance, especially in the second half and the fourth quarter, because that is what people have been waiting for, right? Is like, can he take over when they need him? Can his teammates allow him to take over when they need him? And that was the case today. Just a really good performance, really strong. We got a couple comments here. Big Sus Gerb says Evan Mobley looked different today. This one sort of made me laugh. Naj Unscripted says Evan played like he got whooped with a switch before the game. He did play like a different player. He looked awesome. We can leave that one there for now, but certainly something to come back to in another episode of the show, because if that's the Evan you're going to get, the sky is certainly the limit for this team. Another individual performance. We already talked about Sam. You talked a little bit about Darius, but I thought Darius was really strong today as well. He was getting his shot. And it felt like for the first time, maybe not the first time this season, but for one of the first times this season, you had DG and Donovan kind of playing well off of each other and together on the floor, which we saw so much last year. And this was going back to my theme of why I felt like this was the most complete game they've played. You started to see that again from those two, and why they've argued with the media and other people about why they think they can work together. This was the type of performance you wanted to see from those two guys on the floor together, and I think you got it.
I think it's also the level of willingness for Darius to get off the ball. I know that Darius is getting, even Donovan getting off the ball, because the narrative is that they're both ball dominant. Yes, they're both really good with the ball in their hands. Yes, they're different with the ball in their hands. What stood out to me and what was most noticeable for me with Darius was the change in direction stuff today. If you watched him ISO on Rudy Gobert today, he had a little bit of that start-stop. He had a little bit of that left-right, that little bit of shake, that little bit of sizzle. That's what Darius is at his best. That is when Darius is at his best, is when he's got that motion working. And we know it's been a work in progress. It's been tough. This injury, this surgery has been tough to go through. And damn it, he's fighting through it. He's been fighting through it. I thought he defended well today, too.
Did he say
it's not going to be consistent.
Yeah.
It's not going to be consistent yet.
Did he say anything post game about the toe? Like, did it feel different? Did he? Okay, I just didn't know if he mentioned he's feeling better or anything like that. That's all.
Nope. Kenny did, but that's the thing. Like, there's a reason they haven't been consistent, and I hate it. God, it feels like I put kid gloves on when I say this, but like, you're going to be inconsistent when you don't have consistent lineups.
Yeah.
You're going to be inconsistent when you don't have consistent people playing. Like, it's got to be hard. It's got to be hard. Especially, Kenny said that the expected shooting percentages for their opponents has been way up there. Like, he's waiting for the domino to fall or something to happen to where the variance comes back towards the middle. Darius said that even today. He's like, they couldn't miss. So it's one of those things where, God, I told myself before the season that I wouldn't give them this grace, but I'm watching it happen. When Minnesota scored the 67 or whatever the heck amount of points, 65 points in the first half today, I'm like, that they did not give up 65. Like, if you watch the contests, the end of shot clock shots that Minnesota was hitting, I was like, I would be pissed if I was in that locker room because of the job that I was doing. So it is human nature to react a certain way, but good on them. They did not, because at one point they were down 47-35. They were down 47-35. I think it was like 6 minutes left to go until halftime. And they just kept pushing along. I thought when you saw some heads down, it's just like what else can we do type stuff. Like, you can go another way. You can go another way in that situation, especially against a team as hot as the Wolves have been. and they stuck with it. And lo and behold, ended up getting a win and scoring dang near 150 points. But to Darius, like I was saying, it's that shiftiness, it's that stop go, all that stuff, the change of direction. We haven't seen much of that with Darius since coming back from that toe. That's a good sign. You look at the floater over top of Rudy Gobert today, it was beautiful. Even some of the jump passes where he wasn't going in with no plan. If he was doing a jump pass after a drive, it's because he knew he was going to the corner. Or if he was getting into a little crevice, then you knew he was going to do a little no-look shuffle feed to Jarrett Allen or to Evan Mobley. He probably should have had 10 assists tonight, but Jarrett blew a couple and, some guys missed some shots. But he looked fantastic tonight. And he is a huge part of what they do. That is a huge key. He's their maestro, man. And yeah, again, I think the world of what Darius can do, and I know a lot of people in league circles are very high on what Darius can do. The question has always just been, is he going to be able to do it consistently because of the toe? And that the jury's still out on that, but I think it's been coming around slowly but surely, and he's battling through it. So that's all you can ask for, right?
Yeah, we have a big question to ask that we wanted to circle back to. We'll get to that here in a second. But I did want to give you the floor again, Spence. Is there anybody else you wanted to highlight from this game? We've talked a little bit. We obviously talked about Sam. We talked about Darius. We talked about Evan. Donovan, we could highlight every game if we wanted to. We know what Donovan brings to the table. But is there anybody else that stood out or that deserves some shine here in this conversation before we get to our big overarching question here to wrap this up?
Okay. I guess do you want me to save my negative?
No, you can give your negative. Give us your negative. That's fine.
I'm genuinely concerned and questioning the viability of Dre. It's kind of,
we were texting about this during the game.
It's odd because I was talking to some people in Media Row, and maybe I'm overthinking this, but he comes over in the trade and he looks like God's gift to earth. Because the Cavs have never had someone of his position. 6'8", big dude. Know he can defend, know he can shoot. He was shooting the lights out when he first got here. He was really good before he had the thumb injury in the playoffs. Starts the season out on fire, especially preseason. This guy was my preseason prediction was this guy would be an all-star. Dre, to me, it's ebbs and flows. It's really hard to put my finger on DeAndre Hunter and what he brings. Because I was telling Ethan Sands of Cleveland.com, we were talking, I was like, it's been really noticeable, honestly, the last couple of weeks. His effort on the boards and his physicality has really stood out. If there's one thing that they asked him to do, to be that guy, to play that role, done a great job of it. I think the boxing out has been fantastic. Attention to detail. And being physical, good. Offensively, it's just a mixed bag. I can't.
Is there anything you can attribute and there's that to? Is there anything?
I don't know.
Because here's the thing, Spin. I while you were talking, this made me sort of think back to I want to pull up some of his career numbers, and right now, he's shooting his second worst percentage from the floor for his career, dating back to his rookie season in 1920. He shot 41%. He's shooting 43% from the floor. He's shooting his career worst from three, 30.9% from three. So this in a lot of ways, this is an anomaly for DeAndre Hunter. This isn't I'm not saying he's Jason Tatum or something like that as a wing player. He's never been that guy. But I also have to believe this isn't the same guy that he was last year. Because or that he's been throughout his career. So I think there's this middle ground of who he is as a player, and he's not even hitting that right now. So that's where my mind goes. Because we were texting about this during the game, and I'm with you. You and I both highlighted during the preseason and leading up to the season how important DeAndre Hunter was going to be to this team's success, especially knowing he was going to be inserted into the starting lineup and all these things. And I do think Kenny's gotten more. I think he's been a little bit better off the bench, but the struggles are still obviously there. But I can't wrap my head around what happened. What happened to the player from last year? What happened to the player who throughout his career has been a better shooter overall? You're right about the effort part of it. That's not an issue with him. But I'm trying to figure out what's missing here. What's the disconnect? What's leading to this? I don't know if we have that answer. Sometimes it's just that's basketball, right? But I I'm as perplexed as you. I'm stuck. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Is it like golf? Is like, you learn how to rebound better and you play a little bit more physical, and all of a sudden another part of your game goes. It's like,
Yeah.
you find your irons and then you lose your putter. Like, is it something like that? I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, and I hate highlighting a negative after this game, but like it stood out to me. I was just like,
Yeah.
and he's had some times like where there's just like some really boneheaded moments. Like, and he's good. I know he's a good player. I've watched him. And there's just some of these times like where he's either a step slow on a pass that leads to a turnover. He tries to take someone off the dribble and the handle's a little bit loose, and the other team takes advantage because there's a loose ball. Sometimes he's not getting back on defense. Like, he's better. I know he's better than this, and I hate to separate him, like, because he's not the only one who didn't play their best tonight. Like, Craig didn't make any shots tonight. I thought he was terrific as a playmaker again, but just clearly not the right matchup for him against Minnesota, and that's okay. That happens. Lonzo's out of the rotation now, so you can't, like, I don't want to single anybody out, but it just sticks out to me with DeAndre. I don't know. It's probably got to be driving Cavs fans crazy, because it's not who he is. Like, it's different.
Yeah, like I said, pulling up his career highlights emphasizes that more, that's not who he is. It's just weird. And I don't know if the Cavs have the answer, other than it's kind of one of those, like, the only way out is through situations. Like, they just got to keep putting him out there and giving him opportunities and seeing if it starts to click. And hopefully down the stretch of this regular season it does. But, we're a ways away from that as well.
And the good news is that JT can pick up on those minutes, though. Like, while he's having that struggle.
It's been nice to have him, for sure. Jalen Tyson's been a godsend this year. Him and Sam Merrill have kind of been, obviously other than Donovan, but Donovan's like an unmentionable. We don't have to mention him. Like, Sam and JT have been kind of like the bright spots with this team through their struggles. Well, there is the overarching question we want to get back to, and I actually think one of our comments highlights this further. Naj Unscripted gives us this one again. He says, but can we do this more than 2 games in a row? We need an 8-game win streak like right now. And what's funny about the last part of that is, if this team goes in like a 7-8 game win streak, they're like right back in the top of the East. Like, they're only like 2 games back of the 4 seed. Like, they're not out of the picture. They're certainly still in the mix in that way. And an 8-game win streak would do a lot to restore, I think, fans' confidence in this team. But the first part of that question is valid. The thing that's been lacking to this point is you get these games like today in certain moments, and you feel like, okay, they're going to turn that corner. They're finally going to get there. And then they revert back to some of these bad habits the very next game, or like a game after this or whatever. And that's what's so frustrating, is like, if they can do what they did today on a more consistent basis, they can do what they did against the Spurs on a more consistent basis, this team can absolutely get back in the mix in the Eastern Conference, be a team that maybe makes a run. Like, I 100% believe that in my heart of hearts. It's just about being able to do it consistently. And we haven't seen them be able to do that yet. So that is the question. Like, can they do this consistently enough to give themselves a chance in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, and Rick Carlisle said it the other day in pregame. It's just like, I believe they're setting themselves up to be one of the more dangerous teams in the NBA. And again, you take that word. I know people were tired of hearing "we'll be okay" from inside of these walls. But when you hear it from other coaches, you hear it from other players, I think that gives it and lends some credence. And you heard the same thing from Jordan Ott on New Year's Eve. Danny Cunningham asked him, he was like, when you've watched film on the Cavs, like, do you think anything different? I was like, I recognize that team when they played on Christmas against the Knicks. I saw a lot of stuff that was familiar to me. It's in the eye of the beholder. I understand that. And again, I'm trying to be hard on them. And I think the consistency part is where you can be the most hard on them.
For sure.
The other thing is too, like, Dean Wade, should they be this reliable? Should they need to rely on Dean Wade as much as they rely on Dean Wade? Should they need to rely on Sam Merrill as much as they rely on Sam Merrill? It's a part of a team, right? Like, that seems to be their go-to right now. I disagree with that, because I think it's about approach, and it's about making sure that you can respond to different situations of adversity. I think they can obviously do that better, more consistently. But it seems to be everyone's answer right now is it's because they weren't healthy. And even when they are healthy, technically, when guys are back, it's like return to performance is different than return to play. So that's Kenny's go-to thing that he says.
Yeah, it's a good
But
line.
you're right. No, you're right, though. Yes, they need to be better. Like, I also don't think it's as bad as people are making it out to be. That's my personal opinion.
Well, and I want to be clear, too. I think it's been obvious, especially since that Christmas Day game against the Knicks, that they have played better overall. That part is there. You're seeing a more competitive team. You're seeing them play these close teams better. You're seeing them have chances in these games. But, yeah, like the letdowns are obviously still in there. And until they – it's sports. So winning is always going to be the bottom line. That's always going to be where you're judged. And they're still losing games that you feel like they shouldn't, or not as competitive in certain games or certain matchups, and that's going to be frustrating. I do agree, though. Like, they rattle off 7 wins in a row, 8 wins in a row. I think it starts to get people's confidence back if they get guys back healthy. If DeAndre Hunter can snap out of this a little bit, like I know there's a lot of what ifs and it's a lot of hoping and wishing, but I still believe this team is assembled in a way that can be more competitive than they've been at this point. It comes down to the thing we're talking about here, which is how consistently can they do it, and to this point they haven't had that. So we'll see.
And here's the thing too, though. Like, yeah, it'll make you feel better if they rattle off like 7 in a row, but you're still not at the playoffs yet. So like, does a winning streak make you feel that much better? Because I'm told that the regular season doesn't really matter. So it's like, and I'm not even trying to be facetious. Like, you want them peaking in April. You don't want them peaking in January. You want them to be playing well. You want them to start figuring it out. And then when the pieces and parts come along, whenever Max Strus comes back, we got an update this week that it's probably going to be another 3-4 weeks. So, just got to figure out some more. Figure out some more. Like 21 different starting lineups they've had and all this other stuff. Like, they're getting thrown with every possible bad scenario you possibly could be thrown at. And they're still above water. They're 4 games over 500. I know that they've had a little bit of injury luck on the opponent side, but they certainly haven't had injury luck. So how do you factor that in? Like,
for sure,
I just want a little bit of the non-double standard on that. Because, if they played some teams that have had some guys out, but they've also had guys out all year long. I just want the whole piece of the pie. That's all I'm looking for when it comes to analyzing the squad. But a 7-game winning streak, sure, it'll make you feel better in the now. Is that going to really change your opinion that they're going to win the championship? Like, but what does a 7-game winning streak do? Like, I want to see him playing better. I want to see the process better, as it has been. And that's the end all be all for me right now. As long as you're not in the play-in, who cares where you are in seeding? Like, it doesn't matter. We've seen it in the past. It doesn't matter. So you'd like to have home court, obviously. And I think they're going to get home court in that top 4. But, like, it's really about the process. I can't stress it enough. It's about how they look. I need that defense to look a lot better. Yeah. That's my biggest bugaboo. I need them to continue to take care of the basketball and not turn it over 17, 18 times a game like they did the last 4. Like, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for those signs. I'm looking for the physical signs, like Darius Garland looking closer to himself, Evan Mobley getting back to that. Like, I think that they have a playoff type of player. I haven't seen it yet, though, because it hasn't been possible with Jalen Tyson or with a Craig Porter Jr. That's the stuff I'm thinking about. I'm still thinking big picture here. I'm not looking at the results halfway through the season, because there's teams that get hot after the All-Star break.
For sure.
Teams get hot at the All-Star break, go into the playoffs, and then momentum carries them through. It's so, like, it's a long season. It's a really long season. So, like, everyone looking at Detroit right now, rightfully so. But, like, who's to say that Detroit's going to be playing this well in 2 months? So these are the things that go through my head. I was talking to someone who's really well connected around the NBA, and it's like, like, I kind of like the approach to this experimentation, and the quote was, they didn't blow their wad early. So, who knows? It's subjective, and everyone's got their opinions, but I'm staying strong. I'm holding strong. I'm going down with the ship, Spence. I hope you know that. Like, I'm going down with the ship, man.
It's okay. You can take me with you, I guess. We're a team, so you can take me with you. I was just throwing this comment up. James Bridges, he said, yeah, win streak would at least bring some good vibes. 5 to 6 games would make everybody feel good. I think an exit, Spence, and off of what you just said, the last couple of years, there's been a lot of, controversy is the wrong word, but like debate over, did the Cavs, you use the phrase blow your wad? Like, did they get out of the gate too fast? Just to falter at like the end of the season's been brutal for this Cavs team over the last few years, where they kind of fall apart at the end. If this season is the reverse of that, where it's like the beginning of the season is rough, but the end of the season is they're finally a well-oiled machine, everybody's back healthy. I personally think that fans would sign up for that. So, yeah, there's learning in the struggle, and hopefully that's what we get to. I know hope isn't a strategy, I get that, but like the hope is you get to a point where that's what we're talking about, is that if after the All-Star break, this team's really clicking and they do have everything figured out, and Kenny doesn't have to play all these lineups because he has like 1, 2, or 3 lineups that he really can go to and he feels good about it and it's all settled. But, we got to still sort of see that. But yes, I agree where you're getting to January. I know Donovan even said himself, like, this is the time where if they were having a lot of the same issues, you can start to worry. It feels like they're playing better basketball. Can they keep doing it consistently? If they can, I think you start to feel good about like the direction they can go, especially if they finish strong at the end of the season. So that's the last thing I think is important for people to remember, if you will.
I'll leave you with this too. The rest of the way, they've got the 6th easiest schedule on paper against the rest of the league. So remember how many times we were talking about at the beginning of the year, especially in November, the 3 and 4s, the amount of different times they've had back-to-backs to this point. Starting to ease up a little bit. I think after January, they have 3 home games in February. I don't know how many total games they have because there obviously is the All-Star break there. But their like home schedule is over halfway over already. It's crazy. Like they've already played so many games at home, which you can look at that in a negative lens that they didn't take advantage of that, especially against teams that weren't as good. But the schedule itself, and having less games coming up after January 18th, I think it is. That's a positive. That'll help them too a little bit, lick their wounds, get Strus back, get back into some practices maybe, because they've only had 2 or 3 practices all season. That can definitely be a remedy as well.
Well, and that schedule starts with the Jazz on Monday. You mentioned the 3 games they play in February. I just looked this up while you were talking as well.
They play every other day until the 16th, I think, in Philly. And then after that, they have OKC on MLK Day. And then after that, it starts to open up a little.
And those games in February, the Wizards on February 11th. They have the Nets coming out of the All-Star break on February 19th. And then they play the Knicks at home on February 24th. And that's it for February. So, we'll see if that schedule is advantageous to the Cavs finding their rhythm. We'll obviously have you covered. I'm excited to be back in the building on Monday.
Yeah, who the hell are you? I don't know who this guy is.
December's always tough. You know that about my life already at this point. 2 years into this thing, my Decembers are just crazy. So, but no, I'm excited to be back in the building Monday. We'll have you covered, obviously, over at CAVS Roundtable, CAVSRoundtable.com. You can see at the bottom of the screen there on the scroll. And make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. We always got you covered with the post-game press conferences and all that good stuff, plus these podcast episodes, which will have a lot more for you. Coming up next one, Monday, after that matchup against the Jazz. Until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you Monday, Cavs fans. Yeah, here you go.